Looks like Low Wang is back, this time in Shadow Warrior 2, and this is our graphics card performance review for this game. Now before we take a look at the actual benchmark course that we set in this game, we're going to take a quick look at the video settings that we're using for, well, this, as well as for the actual performance guide. We're using the Ultra preset except for one test, but we are using the preset. We are not using multi-res shading technology in any of this. That is a NVIDIA exclusive technology, so we're not using it. And if you want to actually see that in action, though, we do have a link. I'll put that in the card in the upper right hand corner, but you can see here everything else is set to the preset for Ultra. Alright, so this is the run that we used here, and starting here. Now the system that we're using while we're running through this short course is the X99 Broadwell E-base system with a 6800K, 32 gigs of DDR4 at 2666 on an Asus X99A2 motherboard. And storage, we've got a 512 gig SSD from Crucial, and that's really about all there is to the basic setups. Now right here as we jump over this ridge is the end of the course that we used, so we're going to just kind of turn around and sit right here for a second. That is fairly representative of the performance that you'll get throughout the game. Now you will get dips whenever there are intense action sequences with like 10, 15 plus enemies on screen, so do anticipate for those dips to come into effect. But right off the bat we're going to take a look at the 1080p medium settings. Now this is what I call the entry-level graphics card set. We've got the GTX 750 Ti and the RX 460 Nitro, and you can see even at medium settings this game is still pretty tough to run for these cards. The 460 comes a bit closer to that 60 FPS mark, but not quite hitting it. Now moving into the 1080p Ultra results, we can see again the 750 Ti and the 460 there at the bottom, with the GTX 1080 and the 980 Ti carrying the far end of the higher performance spec. Now moving on to 1440p, things get a lot more interesting, and you can tell that this game, once you start cranking the resolution, becomes very demanding, as that you have to move up to the 390 in order to hit that 60 FPS average at 1440p Ultra, with the GTX 1080 clearing 100 FPS average and only barely dipping under that 60 FPS for a minimum 1.1% lows. Moving up to 4K is quite a feat for any of these graphics cards to do. The 480, 1060, it's not even, I mean, if you're okay with, 26 to 30 FPS, go for it, but otherwise if you're shooting for that 60 FPS mark, actually none of these cards are going to quite hit that at 4K Ultra. But taking into consideration, again, I'll hit another link up there in case you wanted to see that again, with 4K running at high preset, utilizing a conservative multi-res shading, you are able to exceed that 60 FPS on a GTX 1080, which is quite nice at 4K, admittedly with a little bit of degradation around the edges. But guys, this has been a Shadow Warrior 2's graphics card performance. If you enjoyed it or found it informative, feel free to like and subscribe, and we will catch you all in the next one.